to lie, won't stop to lie, can't stop to lie, won't stop to lie, can't stop to lie, won't stop to lie, ain't no Chico, just peace.
Welcome, y'all. It's another edition, another episode of TechDontSleep Podcast, and I am here the second time in the building. What's up with Karen Williams of Culture Avid, previously known as the MitechPartners Agency. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. You know, the first time we spoke on season one, we had a couple of good conversations, right? Yeah, because we had Dominique on, and then we had you on once or twice. So, you know, I'm always considering you my little sister, you know. But I'm proud of the work that you're doing. But for those of us who have not heard of, you know, your previous company, Mitech, or what you do, just give us a brief synopsis of what you do with your company.
Okay. So originally the company was Mitech Agency. We focused on diversity tech recruiting. So we help companies to recruit diverse talent.
Yeah.
Right. And so 3 years of doing that and working with a lot of companies that really wanted to hire diverse talent, and then some that really were doing it just to check a box. So through that work is where I came up with, okay, the best solution is to really help companies to build strategies around recruiting diverse talent. So if they really truly want to do it, they'll implement the work and do it themselves, right?
Gotcha.
And then we'll also support them in recruiting if that's what they need. But Culture Avid more so focuses on helping companies to like identify the issues in their recruiting process, their hiring process, the candidate journey, and then helping them to build strategies around making that better.
So is this solely in the technology industry,
No.
or are you okay?
Right. So not wanting to be in this little, you know, bucket of tech, which everything is tech now. Of course, yes.
Yeah.
But we want to be able to help outside of tech roles. Our focus is still tech companies because, of course, they're fast growing. But we want to be able to help tech companies hire, you know, marketing people or, you know, HR professionals. So we do, we have now focused outside of just tech positions, but still kind of focusing on tech companies.
Yeah, because so tech companies, a lot of them are just high growth companies, right? And there's a lot of opportunity, especially in, you know, popular cities like Nashville, Austin, all that good stuff. But I'm just wondering, so you mentioned that a lot of companies were shooting for diversity just to check the box, right?
Yeah.
So what's the downfall to that? What's a disadvantage of a company saying, hey, you know, we've got a diverse pool of personnel instead of, you know, approaching it your way with Culture Avid?
Well, a lot of times companies are saying, we want to bring in diverse talent, and they bring us on and we give them this pool of talent, but they don't hire them. So for one, it wastes our time and resources. And then for two, it wastes the candidate's time. And then three, it just makes us look bad because our candidate has went through this process and they can feel that this doesn't feel right. I don't really feel like they're interested in what I have to say during the interview process. And so it makes us look bad because we were supposed to vet the company and make sure that they were really good fit. But most times they do sell a good story, right? The person that reaches out to me is the HR person. She's normally a woman or a person of color, and they're really interested. But you got to think about the person that's doing the interviews.
Okay.
Are they really interested? Which is another portion of Culture Avid, which we focus on an ACR audit, which is like the attract. How do they attract talent? Their website, social media, job postings, things like that. And then the C is our process, the candidate process. Like once they apply all the way to being hired or rejected, how does that process look? But the last and I think most important part is the retention. If we bring on these people, will they stay?
Yeah.
And we figure that out based on surveying or, you know, really gauging your current employees. How do they feel about diversity hiring? How do they feel about these initiatives that you're putting in? Do they feel like it's a good thing? Or do they feel like affirmative action and these people are just getting these jobs because they're black?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if they feel like that and you're bringing in black people that they have to train or sit with, or they are going to make sure they have a bad experience. So a lot of companies are missing that piece. They want to do a lot of, you know, the C work. I want to have an event and put our name on stuff, but they're really not doing the root work to make sure that once they bring in the talent, that they actually stay.
So you're really talking about the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hence the name Culture
Avid.
Avid. Yeah.
Exactly.
So here's my question then. Let's say you do an audit, right? So you'll go into a company, you'll do the survey, you'll survey the existing staff, and you'll do some other things, and you'll get some analytics or some feedback.
Right.
And what if the company is not where it needs to be, or it's not, a fertile ground for diversity? Like, are you then going in to make some recommendations, or what are you doing?
So that one tells us that we're not ready to work with them on a recruiting platform, but then we can now make recommendations for people that are in our network that do diversity training and things like that. We don't do diversity training, but we make the recommendations because we have already sourced a pool of people that can perform that for them. So really just getting that information, that data to take back to them so that they can make the right recommendations, or we can make the right recommendations, and they can make the right step forward to make it a better work environment for the diverse talent.
Yeah, because from my perspective, I feel like it starts at the top, right?
Yes.
It starts at the top. So because I worked in companies, large companies, small companies, and even in the biggest tech companies, right? I mean, the mindset and the culture or the perspective of the top leadership really filters down. You know what I mean? So tell us, especially in the field of technology, why is this work so important?
There's so many reasons, and I'm gonna think about just one in particular. Think about all the AI work that's been done. Have you heard about people putting their hands under the thing and it doesn't recognize them because of their skin color, or all of this AI that's doing facial recognition that's going to affect our community? We definitely need people in the room when they're developing this technology. Yeah. So if we're being left out of the room, those decisions that are being made are not taking us into consideration. So I think that's why it's really, really important. Yeah.
So when it comes to like the end product and just having the input of the end product and the end user and the user experience. Right. So, but also I'm interested to know kind of what the numbers look like as it relates to like what percentage of people who are getting tech jobs are people of color or women, or like what are the diversity numbers that we need to catch up to, right? Do we need to go from 10% to 20%, or is it,
I think that's depends on each company. Each company is going to be different. There are some that are doing a really good job. Okay. And there are some that aren't. And you got to think about a startup. Just like I have a startup, you have a startup. When you have a startup, you kind of look at your network. Right. And
right. Of course.
Reach out to your network and see who can help you, who can support you in growing this business. And so the same thing for, European, white America, that's the same thing, right? When they build these companies, they're going to their network, to the schools they went to, which probably aren't, a lot of black people. It's predominantly white. And so that's who they pull from to build their companies. So they have to really be intentional and say, okay, we know that we can get lots of, white men to do this job. But if we want to build a company where the culture is good, that we are thinking about our end user, our community, where we're building these companies, and then I think it'll be better. But I think if it's not a problem, if it's not a problem, then you don't look to fix it. Like if you have a startup, you're making millions of dollars, you're a unicorn, and you're not thinking about fixing something that doesn't look like it's a problem. Yeah. So,
but do you think that goes both ways though for people who are like I'm black, right? So if I started my company, I wasn't thinking about diversity when I started building my team. Right. So I mean, do you think I should have started thinking about diversity as a black man, as a black entrepreneur as well?
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah.
And your team is very diverse, though.
Yeah, it is diverse.
Even though you weren't thinking about it, I think it just probably was natural for you to get the best person for the job. Yeah. And your network, because you're in Nashville, is a little more broad. Sure. Right? And for us, we always look to broaden our network because we feel like for us to get to the top, we have to step outside of our race to even get there. So our networks are always a little more diverse versus theirs aren't, because they feel like, or not to put words in everybody's mouth, but it normally is what they need is already in their network. Yeah. They don't necessarily think, I need to go get an African-American man so my company can be successful. That's not how it goes. Right.
Wow, that's a good point. So it's about intentionality. Right. Basically, yeah. And I was reading an article before that was talking about diversity and just having a diverse pool of, staff or personnel, and how those companies that are intentional about that are actually more profitable. Yes. They're more productive. They have a better culture and all that good stuff. Yeah. So I think that like if business professionals or entrepreneurs see just the true concrete results, right, of those efforts, they'll make a point to make that an initiative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, the data's there. They've been saying year after year after year that you're more profitable, you make decisions quicker, you make better decisions. Yeah. But,
So what do you think is holding us back? Or holding some companies back, right? Because, so I'll just make the correlation. We all know that if we implement some type of technology to condense the time frame of a process, then it's going to help us make more money, right? Mm-hmm. Be more productive. So if we see something that is efficient, that will produce a better result, why isn't everybody jumping on it? Is it because it's just a shift in our habitual manner, or do you think it's something else? What? I'm just asking your opinion, actually.
So the question is, why aren't other companies jumping on? So
why aren't people doing this?
Like, a lot of people are, but it's America.
Okay,
right?
okay.
I just did a post on that on LinkedIn. Hopefully you liked it. Okay.
I did. It took me about 30 minutes to read it. It was a long post.
It was.
But thank you for breaking it up in small paragraphs.
You're welcome. You taught me that. But you want people to pay attention. Anyway, it's what the country was built on, right? It's like white men, European American men at the top, and they kind of filter down the little stuff. And normally at the bottom, it's us in the call centers and the warehouses and whatnot. And it's just a feeling of power.
Okay.
Right? It's like, I don't know. I'm gonna stay neutral on that one.
No, I mean, but I think it's something we need to talk about, though. Because there are industries. A lot of times when I go into a room, to work on a project in technology, especially. I mean, sometimes I'm the only person of color in the room, right? And I grew up like that. I grew up going to schools where it was majority white. So for me, I don't feel out of place. Right, I can communicate with anybody.
Yeah.
But I have heard some of my colleagues who are black say, "Oh man," and sometimes another brother will be in the room and they'll come up to me and say, "Hey man," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Awesome."
Right.
But I just think that we just got to keep pushing. I guess that's what's it, because we're trying to steer the ship, but the ship is so big.
That's it.
Yeah,
the ship is so big. It's not a 10-year problem.
Right.
This is hundreds of years of problems. Speaking of what happened over the weekend, like that person, his parents work somewhere. He didn't get that from himself.
Talking about the 18-year-old that went to
the grocery store in Buffalo, New York.
In Buffalo, yeah.
So that hate that he has, that came from somewhere. It could have come from his parents. It could have come from an uncle or a grandfather, whomever.
Yeah.
Those people work somewhere. And are they in contact with people of color, LGBTQ community? Like, how do they feel about that? And so those bad apples, they want to call them, that's rottening the bunch in corporate America or in your neighborhoods, that's the problem. And that's why I think it's so much deeper than just bringing a person of color in. Because if you haven't done the groundwork to make sure that it's an environment where they can feel safe, respected, and thrive, then it's just, you're doing them a disservice.
Yeah. So Culture Avid now is doing this work, and how has your traction been? How has your feedback or success been?
You know what? Of course, since we were MitechPartners agency for 3 years, we had a lot of SEO built up. We get calls all the time, a lot of inbound. And so this year, we just made the change in January. So it's going to take, I think, a minute for companies to kind of get the grasp of it. But companies have still been reaching out and they want the same thing. We say, we can provide these strategies so we can figure out what the problem is, why you weren't pulling them in yourself. And, it's like, but we just really want to hire. So it's pushback because I think the real work, the strategy part, the really uncovering what the problem is, uncovers what the problem is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to be faced with what the true problem is within their company.
Yeah.
They just want to kind of put a Band-Aid on it, bring some black people in, start an ERG, and hope that works. And then put all of the work on the people that they put in the, they join the ERG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you recommend like people do who are already working at a company, right? And let's say they don't want to do an audit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that companies can do? Not necessarily like their own survey or something like that, but I'm just thinking about something simple, just a staff employee. Like, is there something that people can do as an employee to have an impact or to start a conversation or make a shift?
Well, I think what you said, not do one, but definitely talk to your employees, do a survey, figure out what's going on. Because a lot of times people are experiencing stuff, but they feel uncomfortable talking about it because they don't want to be fired. I think it was Tesla or a company recently, I think it was Google. They fired the lady because she talked about some injustice that she had, and then now she's moved on, and another company has picked her up. But they're afraid that they're going to be fired, retaliated against.
Yeah.
And so if you give them a platform where it can be anonymous and they can really kind of tell you what's going on, I think that also helps. But the people that are in your organization are going to be your best bet.
Yeah.
Figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
A lot of times companies don't ask because they don't want to uncover what the problem is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I want to back up a minute because like when a company, when you change your name and you have to, you got to change your website, your logo, all this stuff, right? So talk to us about that process right quick, because I remember when Google went to like Alphabet and, Comcast went to Xfinity and all that, when they make these changes, I always wonder like, why are they doing that? Right. And it's probably a branding play or something like that. But just give us an idea of why you decided to do that as an entrepreneur versus keep the same name and just add another service.
Yes. So Mitech Agency originally stood for Minorities in Tech. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to be stuck in the tech role. Yeah. And then I wanted to eventually branch out from minorities and and be looking at diversity, whether it's, sexuality or religion or whatever.
Gender.
Gender or whatever diversity means for that client. And also in the Nashville area, when I would go to events, people would say, "Oh yeah, you work for Mitech." And I'm like, no, my company is called Mitech Agency. I am not affiliated with
funny.
Bill McCleskey.
You are affiliated.
MitechPartners, and that happened all the time.
Yeah.
So the shift to being able to do more culture work. That's what the shift was for. But yes, it was a lot. It was a lot of work to do all of the changes. We got to change the DBA with the state. We got to add all the new DBA to all of our paperwork. Change the website, change the social media, change the logo, change the branding. Now we got a different target market. So now we got 2 separate Instagrams, one for talent, one for clients. And so it has definitely been a lot, but I'm hopeful that it will pay off. The switch.
Yeah. Wow. That is a lot. So when you came up with the idea, how long did it take you to make the decisions to say, okay, I'm going to do this? And then how long was the transition period?
And you know what? I'll be very transparent. I was working with a client that had us work on a role for them. And we had worked on the role for a little over 30 days. They were getting to the point where they were about to hire somebody. And then they put the role on hold. So there was 6 weeks of my time that we had worked for free.
Yeah, you hadn't gotten paid.
We don't get paid till the person gets hired. And so at that moment, I said, this is not going to work. I need another strategy. Yeah. And then Brittany Cole, she's a phenomenal speaker and entrepreneur here in Nashville. She had a retreat in December 2021, 2 to 3 days. And I went there in the coursework that we went through and just being at the retreat alone without family, just really being able to think is where I kind of strategized it. So December is where the idea came about. And it was actually going to be just an additional company or like a
additional service. Yeah.
But the more I thought about it, the more I strategized on it. I just said, let's just do it. Let's just change it all. Yeah. And see where it goes.
So Mitech is no more?
Mitech is no more.
Okay.
No. Yeah. But the Mitech Agency website is still up and it takes you to.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I was going to say, I might as well grab that.
You want to grab it? I mean, $1 million, I'll give it
right. No doubt. The domain.
Yeah.
Well, you got a nice brand, you know what I'm saying? So you made it happen.
Yeah.
Big time. Okay. All right. So where do you see your work taking you now?
I'm hopeful that it will take us to places where we can help companies to build authentic and intentional recruiting processes and really be intentional, because it's not just the HR person. I think that's another thing, that it gets just set in the HR department.
Yeah.
And it's so much bigger than the HR department, right? The hiring managers, the mid managers, everybody that's involved should take a part of diversity inclusion or diversity hiring or whatever the initiative is to improve the workplace, but it should be a team effort, not a department effort. So I'm hopeful that we can get to that place where we can help companies to like get everybody involved. Like a piece of our strategy is coming up with a candidate persona. Because just think about when you have a new client, right? When you think about your client, you know your client, how much they make, where they're located. You know everything about your client. So when you go to talk to them via copy on your website or whatever, you know what to say. But people don't do that when it comes to the candidate. They just like post a job and hope the right person finds it. But you really should understand who that person is. And everybody should be involved in like developing what you're looking for. And I think you can uncover the bad apples in the room when you're trying to do that.
So it create an ideal candidate profile. Right. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Right. And then what are the specifics of that? Like, is it gender specific, race, or education? Is it all that?
That's a good point, because it could, depending on the client, it could be it could be a variation. Because one client, we were helping them in their marketing department. Well, their marketing department was full of women, white women, and so to them, when they came to me, diversity could have been a man. It could have been a white man, it could have been a black man, or any man, because men were not represented in their department. So, it just depends. Yeah. So if we were to build it out, we would say, okay, we're looking for, white male or just males in general. This is where they live. This is the education. This is the experience they have. This is what they bring to the table. I think really breaking that down and understanding the candidates that you really want to bring in, that way you know how to talk to them, right? So when you do copy, which, social media people understand, when you do copy, the way you talk to Bill, a 50-year-old man is not the same
no, you
that
didn't.
You would talk to me, a 28-year-old woman. It's just not the same. Okay, 38. Okay. I'll go 38.
A little disillusioned.
It's not the same conversation, So you really have to understand the candidates that you're trying to attract, so you know what to say and you know where they are. People think that HBCUs is the only place you can find black people. Like, it's all kind of conferences and organizations and everything, So I think understanding that and doing the legwork and research to find out how do you connect with these people will be, help them a lot.
Okay, but I got to ask you something. So, first of all, I'm not 50, okay?
I know. Just sounds better, rounded up.
Oh, wow. So, okay, I'm about to hire a sales guy.
Oh, good.
Right? And I'm not looking for a man or a woman.
Okay. But what did you say you're looking for? You finna hire a sales what?
I did say sales guy. Okay.
Change your language.
One. Okay, thank you.
A sales person.
Give some feedback. A sales professional.
There you go. I like it.
And so from my perspective, I'm looking for talent, right? First. I'm looking for talent first. I'm looking for somebody who's skilled, experience, all that good stuff, connected for that role. And I don't think black or white.
Okay.
I don't think male or female. At least first, I guess, right? But are you saying I should?
What I'm saying is,
my allergies, you know what I'm saying?
Allergies don't come out your throat. Are you balanced?
So I should look at my existing team, right?
I know of your team is pretty balanced.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the people that aren't balanced. You have men, women, Asian, black, white. You have a melting pot of employees. It's the people that don't. Right.
So people who don't have the balance should say, I'm looking for this when it comes to maybe relative to gender or race or ethnicity or whatever.
Right. And then I'm not saying to not accept people that
that don't fit
that. It's not like, if it's a white man that fits the role, but did you look for anything outside of that?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Did you even take the time to see if you could diversify your pool?
Yeah.
Or did you just go with the norm? No. I know someone that applied for a role and every person on the engineering team came from the same school.
Okay.
15 people. Everybody came from the same school. White male, maybe 2 white females. And now they want to hire somebody diverse. You bring them into that. Like, you have to be intentional. That means you weren't intentional. You went to the exact same school every time you wanted to hire somebody.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that, if we reverse engineer that, if somebody wanted to be intentional about being diverse, they could go to a school, create a relationship or partnership with a HBCU or whatever that's relative to that situation and create a pipeline, so to speak, of diverse talent.
And I want people to get the right talent, right? You should hire the right talent, the person that is a good fit for the role. But I think just making sure that you are cognizant of not just going to the same, swimming hole when you look for talent. Like, go out there and look in other places, because there's great talent in more than one spot. And people just look in the same spot, and it's like all this great talent that you're passing up on that you don't know, what type of benefit it would be to your company if you would have just opened up your eyes and just been more, intentional.
Yeah. And I think the biggest challenge may be culture.
It is, definitely.
It's culture, because if you got the good old boy network and everybody went to the same school, that's a certain culture, right? At that company.
And they feel comfortable with that. Right. Like, I went to an event here yesterday, and it was a women's event, and it may have been maybe 100 women, maybe a little more, and it was probably 5 Black women, maybe 6. And like 4 of us end up sitting together because we're like, oh, it's like, because how do you just really being intentional on networking, all of those things, because you have to get out your comfort zone. Nothing extraordinary happens.
So it's on both ends. Then.
It's definitely on both ends. I think for us as well, like, how often are we as people of color going out and connecting outside of our demographic? Yeah. So it's an all around thing.
I love it.
It's a lot of work to be done.
Oh my goodness. It's a lot of work, and it's uncomfortable work.
It's definitely uncomfortable work.
Yeah. So, I mean, my thing is, I encourage, and I tell, my colleagues or entrepreneurs this all the time, I encourage you to get uncomfortable, right? And get in circles or networks or environments that you don't normally visit or patronize, and meet some folks and make some connections. Because I do that intentionally, and it is very fruitful. But I notice sometimes people come up to me and say, hey, man, next time you go to one of those events, let me know, right? So I think people see the benefits, but I also sense that either they're not exposed to what's going on, or it's just an uncomfortable thing.
And they don't want to go along. That's what they say, tell me when you're going so I can go with you.
Yeah. So tell us how we can get in touch with you and reach out.
Well, you can find us at cultureavid.com. We are Culture Avid everywhere, on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. But if companies are looking for strategy or diversity recruiting, you can find us at cultureavid.com.
Is there a certain size of company that you're looking for?
Well, we just really want to kind of stay in the tech space. So tech, healthcare tech, ed tech, fast growing companies that, really have at least gotten to maybe 10 employees. Okay. So you can start that way.
And how long is the engagement?
It just at a minimum, because the first portion of our audit is like a focus group that we create of what you say is the ideal candidate, so we can get their feedback, and that could probably take up to maybe 2 weeks. So it's about 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, got you. Complete in full.
Yeah. Well, y'all, listen, reach out if you are running a company or heading up a department. Reach out to Culture Avid and do the groundwork. Right. I call it the fertile work of toiling the soil. Did I say that right?
I hope so.
You got to get in there and fertilize and make sure that once the roots are planted, they're in fertile ground. So I think that's really what we're doing to make it a metaphor. Hey guys, appreciate you. Karen, appreciate you for coming through. And the second or third time, always a pleasure, and always impressed with the work that you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Even though you give me a hard time. Hey guys, if you are not following us on social media, make sure you do that at TechDontSleep on all social media platforms. And yo, shout out to our sponsors for Q2, Aircall, Comcast. Who else we got? We got Comcast and Spectrum VoIP as well. So we appreciate y'all. And if you're seeing this before June 29th, we do have an event June 29th, 2022 in Nashville. So make sure you go to our website and register for that free event. It's going to be hot. Oh, and it's also my birthday celebration. So we're going to be kicking it.
Happy 50th.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. 34. All right. Holla at y'all. Peace.
Can't stop to lie, won't stop to lie. Can't stop to lie, won't stop to lie. Can't stop to lie, won't stop to lie. Ain't no Chico, just be smooth.